Hey you guys, so today's video I want to talk a little bit about reverse dieting and what it means to implement a reverse diet, who it's for, and kind of how you begin the process of a reverse diet. So reverse dieting is basically just the opposite of doing a diet. It's slowly adding in calories over time in order to rebuild and repair your metabolism, which can oftentimes be really affected or damaged over a long period of time. If you have been an avid yo-yo dieter, or if you're somebody who has done a bikini or a figure competition and you've been on super low calories for a long period of time. It can also be really effective for somebody who's already eating a pretty decent amount of calories, who may be close to their maintenance but wants to push the envelope a little bit further and get closer to their maintenance, or eat a little bit over their maintenance so that maybe they can start a bulking session to focus on building some muscle mass, and in that case you would want to definitely take the time to reverse diet to get your calories up a little bit higher. So we're going to take a really common scenario for the purpose of fat loss and give you guys the example of somebody who is currently eating about 11 to 1200 calories and they want to lose weight. So just for a little refresher, this may or may not be obvious to you guys. A lot of people may think they're eating in a calorie deficit, but they're no longer losing weight. So by definition, if you are not losing weight and you think you're in a calorie deficit, you are definitely not in a calorie deficit. So a lot of times what can happen is somebody may be under-reporting their calorie intake, or they're not measuring out their food 100%, so they're kind of underestimating just how much food they actually are eating, thinking that they're only eating 1200 calories when maybe really they're eating 1500 calories. The other scenario is maybe that person is in fact eating 1200 calories and they are no longer losing body fat. And we're going to talk about both of those specific cases today. So if somebody were to come to me and tell me that they're only eating 1200 calories, they want to lose weight, they've been eating at this level for quite some time now, and maybe they lost a little bit of weight in the beginning but they're no longer losing weight, there's a couple of different approaches that we're going to want to take. The first approach is, if your body has gotten used to eating 1200 calories and you know for a fact by accurately tracking and weighing your food that you are in fact eating 1200 calories, the only way that we can create an additional bridge to kind of bridge that gap and push past that plateau is to either A, continue to decrease your calories, B, add in a little bit of extra energy expenditure, possibly through some extra cardio, or C, a combination of doing both. And the problem with doing that is I would personally only want to drop your calories so low. That's how a lot of women end up on these such extreme low calorie diets, because they think that they have to continue slashing and slashing and slashing and slashing, and before you know it, they're eating 900, 1,000 calories a day, and eventually, again, your body's going to adjust to that calorie amount and you're no longer going to lose weight. So in that case, that would be somebody I would want to spend some time reverse dieting. I will say though that reverse dieting is definitely a slow process. There's ways that you can speed it up, but I would much rather somebody take the time and the energy and the consistency to do this the right way, because the faster you add calories, the more likely you are to put body fat on in the process. So let's go ahead and do some math and figure out what this reverse diet would look like for somebody who is at 1200 calories that actually probably needs to take the time to reverse diet. So again, if we have somebody on a 1200 calorie diet and their body is maintaining at 1200 calories, we would drop her calories further to continue fat loss. That is more times than not going to be my suggestion. So what we're going to do is take some time to reverse diet this person. So this 2100 calories that is all the way over on the far right side of the whiteboard is actually her TDEE. So this is her total daily energy expenditure. There are several calculators out there that will calculate your TDEE. There's going to be a lot of variance between those equations and those calculations, so keep that in mind. Usually there's anywhere from 100 to 300 calorie variance there, so just keep that in mind. But this, let's just say for this client, 2100 calories is what her TDEE is, which is also known as your maintenance calories. So theoretically, this is what this person needs to be eating every single day in order to maintain her weight. But this person likely has either underfueled for a very long time or yo-yo dieted for quite some time. Her body is now maintaining her weight at 1,200 calories. So what I would do for this client is to spend some time slowly over time adding in calories to eventually get her to 2,100 calories, which is her predicted calculated maintenance calories. And you can see that this is about a 900 calorie jump. Never will I ever suggest making the jump from 1,200 to 2,100 calories overnight, for obvious reasons, and those reasons being that you're going to feel absolutely miserable, you're going to feel bloated, you're going to feel disgusting, and not to mention that you're probably going to gain a lot of body fat on very quickly in the process. The hard part about this process, especially for those of you who are really, really eager to lose fat and lose fat like right now, is this process takes time. In this process, your focus is not on losing weight. The process and the purpose of reverse dieting is really to help restore any metabolic damage that has happened from years of yo-yo dieting or years of restricted eating or just years at eating such low calories. So just know that it is a very time-consuming process depending on how big this jump may be, depending on how long you've been at this amount, depending on how high your actual maintenance calories are. So just keep that in mind. But the point behind a reverse diet is not to lose weight. I have had clients, however, that have done a reverse diet who have lost weight in the process, but that's definitely more of an exception versus the rule behind reverse dieting. And we can go into reasons why that may be later on. So the purpose for this client specifically would be that over time, we can hopefully get her to 2,100 calories, have her hang out there for maybe a couple months. How long I would have somebody eat at their maintenance calories is going to depend again on how long they've been dieting, how long they've been at this number here, and then several other factors. But the goal would be to have this person stay at 2,100 calories for, let's just say, a couple of months, get her body used to and adjusted to eating 2,100 calories a day, with hopefully gaining as little body fat on in the process as possible, so that when the time comes that we do want to start a dieting phase, we can now actually take 400-500 calories from this amount and drop her down to, let's just say, 16, maybe 1,700 calories, and those are the dieting calories that her body will lose weight at, versus trying to take a couple hundred calories from 1,200 to create that deficit. That's just never going to be an ideal situation whatsoever. But if we can take the time to reverse diet her to 2,100 calories, spend some time there, and then drop from there, she's actually going to be dieting on 400 to 500 calories extra than her body was used to several months prior. So how we would start this reverse dieting process is going to vary on a couple of different things. So how fast and how patient you are is really going to determine how quickly you can get from 1,200 to 2,100 calories. So I'm always going to come from a place of what's going to be sustainable for you, getting you to look at the bigger picture, and obviously try to make this process as realistic and easy for you as possible, but also trying to keep as much body fat off in the process of reverse dieting as possible. So you can actually add in anywhere from 2 to about 8% of your calories per week to get from point A to point B. So 2 to 8% is going to be a pretty conservative jump, meaning you are a lot less likely to gain body fat on in the process. 5 to 8% is going to be more moderate, and then anything over 8% is going to be a pretty aggressive approach, meaning that if you add calories faster than 8% at a time, you're much more likely to gain some body fat on in the process. So you kind of have to have that conversation with yourself with, are you okay with gaining even more body fat on in the process in order to speed this whole thing up? Or if you can express a little bit of patience with yourself and take the time to do it, I would maybe start in the 2 to 5% range and start a little bit more conservative and then kind of see how your body responds from there. So let's just say that for this person, we're going to keep her at a 5% increase with her calories. Okay? So we're going to just assume that protein needs are already adequate. Most people, when they're not dieting, eat an adequate amount of protein. Your protein needs do go up as you diet. But if you're eating just kind of normally, most people get an adequate amount of protein in already. So this 5% increase are going to come from carbohydrates and fats. For simplicity purposes, we're going to have her macronutrient breakdown for her 1200 calories be 80 grams of protein, 49 grams of fat, 110 grams of carbohydrates, with her end goal being, with the 2100 calories, her breakdown at 80 grams of protein, we're going to keep that the same, 98 grams of fat, and 225 grams of carbohydrates. So if we want to be, again, on the conservative range here, let's just do 5%, it's an easy number. We're going to take 5% of 49 grams of fat and 5% of 110 grams of carbohydrates, which will come out to 2 grams of fat and 6 grams of carbohydrates that we are going to add each week. So if we do the math here, a little refresher, 1 gram of fat has 9 calories, 1 gram of carbohydrates has 4 calories. So 2 times 9, that's 18 calories, and then 6 times 4 is 24. We're going to add that together, so that's 42 calories. So in this case specifically, I'd probably have this person just do 1 week at this increase. 42 calories is really not that much. I mean, that's a small handful of a couple chips, honestly, so that's going to probably be really hard for somebody to be that narrow of an increase without having some sort of slip up, again, like a handful of things here and there that they're just not even paying attention to. But that's how you would figure out the math at 5%. In this case, I'd probably, again, maybe experiment with 6 to 8%, which will probably get her calories closer to about 100 calories of an increase each week. And you are going to repeat that process until you get to the end goal of that 2100 calories. So let's just say, again, this is maybe not the best example because 42 calories is not that much of an increase, but if we stayed there and we took 2100 calories minus 1200 here, okay, that, again, that's a 900 calorie difference. If we divided that by 42, it would take about 21 weeks to get from point A to point B, which seems like a really long time. I mean, that's half a year, you guys. But again, in this case, we could go a little bit more aggressive with this approach, and it would obviously take less time to get there. But typically, you do want to take that calorie amount and add it every single week. And a good way to gauge on if you are allowed to be a little bit more aggressive with your approach is to just monitor your weight. Keep track of your progress photos and your measurements. Ideally, I wouldn't want somebody going over 1% of their body weight each week. If you see a difference of more than 1% each week in your weekly differences with your weigh-ins, I'd probably suggest you pull back a little bit. If you're continuing to lose weight or you didn't really see a change at all on the scale, then you might also want to bump it up a little bit on the moderate, maybe even the more aggressive approach, and continue to add in a little bit more calories each week, just depending on how your body responds. Let's just fast forward in time a little bit, and let's just assume that now this client has been sitting at 2100 calories for 3 months now, and her weight has pretty much stabilized the entire time with maybe a couple pounds of a fluctuation here and there. And now she's really, even more, now wanting to focus on a fat loss phase. Again, we can now take her 2100 calories as her baseline and drop from there, and she's going to be much more satisfied, much more happy, and much more content, period, with being able to diet on a much higher calorie amount than she would have been had we been trying to start from 1200 calories. So it's definitely always worth the conversation in the beginning for me to have with my clients on whether or not you actually think you're eating 1200 calories or not, for example. But if you are 100% tracking and weighing every single thing possible, and this is your actual intake, then likely I'll be having a conversation with you at some point about possibly needing to take the time to do a reverse diet with you, similar to this situation, so we can slowly build your calories back up, slowly repair your metabolism in the meantime, and then from there be able to drop your calories and start a fat loss phase. But odds are too that a lot of people think they're eating in a deficit. They think they're eating around this calorie range, but they may take 5 to 7 days and start tracking their food and weighing everything, and then in actuality they're eating way more and drinking way more than they thought they were. And in that case, if they are actually eating 1,500 calories versus 12, that's still likely not enough calories to want to start a diet from, but at least then, in that case, we would be starting from 1,500 calories and trying to work you up to 2,100 calories versus the 1,200 calories. So this is definitely something that is, like anything, completely individualized. Everybody is going to respond differently. And it is, again, a very, very slow, sometimes kind of tedious process, but the most important thing I can say about reverse dieting is to really look at the bigger picture with all of this and try not to focus on the short-term wants and desires of wanting to lose body fat. Because I know that when you guys come to me and sign up for this program, that you may be here and you're like, I want to lose weight as fast as possible, and I wanted to do it like yesterday. But just know that if you're starting in an area similar to this, we may very well have to spend some time on repairing your metabolism, slowly getting your calories back up so that you can have a much, much more successful and happier dieting phase in the future. Because I can diet you on 1,200 calories, but that's going to put you at 800, 900 calories a day, which is not sustainable, not realistic. You're going to be hungry, you're going to be bitchy to your husband, you're not going to have any energy for your workouts, and it's just going to be a hot, hot mess. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have questions, again, on reverse dieting or anything, definitely let me know when we do our group coaching call, and I'll see you in the next video.